Hello, this is Mason Kuhn from UNI, and I'm going to walk you through a brief overview of the new assist units that we created this last summer with the help of some great teachers who brought some wonderful ideas. And the purpose of this video is just to kind of show you the new format. It's very similar to last year's, but with some really great features that will help you guide through the units. So I'm going to start out with, if it loads here, there we go. One of the things that we thought would be useful is we created a storyline for each unit, and a storyline are the performance expectations and the standards in the Next Generation Science Standards that are in each unit. So for example, the first grade trimester 1 is an earth science unit, and you can see these three standards are what you'll be teaching in the unit. But instead of just looking at it as three individual standards, we put the big idea and the storyline. So for this one, the storyline is the sun, moon, and stars behave in predictable patterns. We can only see the sun during the day. We can only see the stars at night. The sun and the moon rise and set in predictable places in the sky. We get more sunlight in the summer than in the winter. So basically what we did here is we took all the information in the standards and we kind of put it all together in a storyline that helps you think about how these different standards are related to each other. Because part of the NGSS is not to think about information in silos, but how they are connected to each other. You don't necessarily have to show this storyline to your kids. If you think they could understand it, that'd be fine, but it's more for the teacher to kind of understand how these things kind of connect to each other. The big idea, however, will be something that will be shared with the students. All right, and then the next resource we have is just a very simple overview of the unit. And basically what this is, I wouldn't really use this for you're preparing for the lesson or looking over the week before. This is more after you kind of have a handle on what you are required to teach. This is almost kind of like a cheat sheet where you could say, let's say you were going into lesson 2. You did lesson 1 on Monday, and this was lesson 2, and you just needed 5 minutes before it was time to go home, and you wanted to make sure you had everything set up for the next day. You could just say, okay, this is a very short description of what we're going to do. What do I need? Okay, all I need is the thinking logs and these graphic organizers. So this is just a very simple, very basic kind of overview where you have a short description of what you're going to do, the materials you'll need, and the thinking log pages. And then this is a little bit more detailed. This is a flow chart that kind of shows you kind of where you're going to be throughout the lesson. So you'll see this is the bundle again, and then the first lesson for every unit is the initial engagement activity. And so just a short little description here, but then you'll see these little starbursts throughout. This is just supposed to show you that this is lesson 1, and then lesson 2 is your negotiation after the first lesson. And then in that lesson 2, you'd also create the big idea. And then down here, lesson 3, you'll develop the question and the investigation. Lesson 4, you'll actually do the investigation. Lesson 5, you'll have your negotiation after you collect data from the investigation. Lesson 6, you'll check with the experts. Lesson 7, you'll have a second negotiation, or I guess this would be the third one. So those are what those little numbers are, and this is the new and improved lesson plan. So like lesson 1 is here. So again, back to the flow chart, then that's there. And what we did with the new and improved unit plans is for each lesson. We have which specific unit plan that will cover, or I'm sorry, which specific standards will cover. You have your materials that you'll need, the thinking log pages, and then here we have at the end of the lesson they're going to do this. Also down here, we really wanted to help teachers understand the different dimensions of the next generation science standards, and specifically the three-dimensional learning. So we have the actual science and engineering practices, disciplinary core ideas, and cross-cutting concepts that you will be teaching in the lesson, but we wanted to let you know what that meant for the students and for you as a teacher to prepare. So we created this little extra box below, and it says like students will, so they're going to do this science and engineering practice, planning and carrying out investigations and analyze and interpret data, but the students will actually make observations and form questions using their journals at each station. So I observed this, I wonder this. And then the same thing here for the disciplinary core ideas, the students are going to do this. And the cross-cutting concept is patterns, that means the students are going to do this. At the bottom, or on the next page here, if this is still lesson 1, you have a much more detailed description of the investigation, and at the bottom here in the next lesson they'll be doing this. So you have what they're going to do next, what you'll do in this lesson, at the end of the lesson they'll do this. So this was similar to the lesson plan that we ended on last year, but we made them what we think is even a little better. So each lesson plan looks similar to that. And finally we have, hold on here, you have thinking logs for each trimester, and you can just find the page number on those, and you can line those up with the page numbers that are described in the lesson plan. So that's just a little overview of the new documents we created.